you can't know this, but I mean, do you think that she just had these hymns so ingrained in her and her upbringing that was just the way her poetry came?
Excellent question.
Or did she sit and purposely make it
Great.
That way?
Okay, let's take a look at the next poem, because that's the whole thesis here, right? Was she just doing this kind of like, you know, haphazardly, or how carefully is she about this? Okay, take a look at the next poem then. The next one I have up here is, the way I read a letter is this. 'Tis first I lock the door, and push it with my fingers next, for transport it be sure. And then I go the farthest off to counteract a knock, then draw my little letter forth, and slowly pick the lock. Then glancing narrow at the wall and narrow at the floor, for firm conviction of a mouse not exorcised before. Peruse how infinite I am, to no one that you know, and sigh for lack of heaven, but not the heaven God bestow. Okay, this one is another sort of, you know, distant lover kind of idea, right? All right, now, the poem is really about reading a letter, right? The way I read a letter is this. First, I lock the door. So the first thing she's going to do is she's going to go over and lock the door, you know, and make sure that she's, you know, totally private and she's not going to be disturbed. And then she pushes the door with her fingers, check. Okay, yeah, it's locked. I got it locked. No one's going to come in through that door now. And then she's going to go the furthest off. You know, she's going to cross the room as far away from that door as she possibly can. And it's only then that she slowly draws the letter out of the envelope. And of course she's got a nice little metaphor there about like opening an envelope is like picking a lock. Okay. Now when she's over there to read this letter, she's going to look around the room one last time and check. You want to make sure that there's not even a mouse in this room that is going to disturb her, right? This is exorcised, as in cast out, like have even the little mice been cast out. I don't even want to be disturbed by a mouse. All right, and then she begins to look at this letter, and she begins to think about how infinite she is to no one that you know. And then she sighs for lack of heaven, but not the heaven that God bestow. All right, why is she sighing? What is this lack of heaven that she's sighing about?
Lack of having her lover.
Yeah, this distance, the fact that she's not together with this person who wrote the letter. You know, this wonderful person that she wants to be with. Okay, let's count the syllables per line. All right, take a look through this poem. If you count the syllables per line, what do you find, right? The way I read a letter's this. 8. To this first I lock the door. 6. And push it with my fingers next. 8 again. For transport it be sure. 8. Okay, so we got 8, 6, 8, 6. Okay. Do you guys want to do it yourself? Which one of these is not like the other one, not like the other? Can you find the one that doesn't fit the rhythm?
In the whole poem?
Yeah, there's one line that doesn't fit.
Okay.
What is it?
And sigh for lack of heaven.
If you look down at this last stanza, peruse how infinite I am, 8, to no one that you know, 6, and sigh for lack of heaven, but not, that's 9. All of a sudden that one breaks the rhythm, right, doesn't it? Okay, she's using 8, 6, 8, 6, this rhythm that she's stolen from the Protestant hymn book, and my conclusion is that she uses this to show things that are holy and special and divine to her. Again, her emotions, you know, her affection for this other person is something that's holy and special and divine. And that's why, you know, when she gets this letter, she's writing about this person using 8, 6, 8, 6, 8, 6. The one line that is not using 8, 6, 8, 6 is the one line about the lack of this divine special connection. The line that says, oh, she sighs for lack of heaven. All of a sudden that one doesn't quite fit. That one's 9, right? So the one line about something that's not divine, the lack of heaven, is the one line where she's broken this rhythm. Okay, now, your question before was, hey, is this just kind of an accident? Is this kind of like something that's just kind of in? Now, normally when I do this poem, my students ask the same question, or they at least challenge me. and they say, "Oh, come on, Mr. Porter, you can't be serious. She just messed up." You know, it's like, you know, she was just writing a line, and it, you know,
Mr. Porter, I was going there immediately.
yeah, you know, she must not, she couldn't have done that on purpose, really.
If she wanted to make it 8, she could have. She could have made like heaven, right? Like she could have put the apostrophe.
Get rid of the word "and."
Without "and."
Just get rid of the word "and." Just say "sigh for lack of heaven, but not." Then it becomes 8 again.
But it's, one thing that makes it seem intentional to me is that where your attention falls is when you say "not," because it's out of the rhythm. It so emphasizes the negative quality of that one sentence.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
One last thing is that, I mean, I know that's not, this is not maybe the intention of the poem, but she's talking about writing in this entire thing in such a deliberate way. She's reading a letter and making it sound like she's putting together pieces of a puzzle, and it's so deliberate and meticulous that you think, well, she must be doing this.
Be aware of her rhythm.
What I normally say to my students at this point then, when they start challenging me about this, is, okay, maybe she's messed up in this one. All right, so let's investigate further. Let's see another one and see how she does with this next one. Okay?
Or we could Google.
That's what it is.
All right, so the next one that I've picked, this is one of my favorite ones. This is one of her nature poems, right, where she's writing about nature and how much she likes being out and among nature. So this one, none of her poems are titled, by the way. None of them, she never titled or numbered any of them. Occasionally you'll find numbering which comes from how they were published or guesses as to, you know, in what order she wrote them. And occasionally people will use the first line as the title, but she herself never ever titled anything. So this next one is just about grass. And it goes like this. The grass so little has to do, a sphere of simple green, with only butterflies to brood and bees to entertain, and stir all day to pretty tunes the breezes fetch along, and hold the sunshine in its lap, and bow to everything, and thread the dews all night like pearls, and make itself so fine, a duchess were too common for such a noticing. And even when it dies to pass in odors so divine, like lowly spices lain to sleep, or spikenards perishing, and then in sovereign barns to dwell, and dream the days away, the grass so little has to do, I wish I were a hay. Okay, now, generally what's this poem about? You know, it's just about, you know, wouldn't it be wonderful to be a blade of grass? Like, how simple your life would be. You wouldn't have any, you know, you don't have to worry about homework assignments. You don't have to worry about grading essays and getting your grades in on time. You don't have to worry about what college you're going to next year. It would just be so simple. If you were a blade of grass, you would be out there in the sunshine, holding the sunshine in your lap. You've got butterflies to think about and bees to entertain. At night, you know, the dew comes and covers the grass, and it looks like pearls. And the grass looks so fine. As a matter of fact, it looks even better than a duchess. A duchess isn't even like quite good enough for pearls of that like wonderful purity. And then when the grass dies, it gets laid in the barn, and you get that, you know, that nice fresh cut grass smell that everybody loves. And then, you know, it's dreaming the days away. It's a flower.
Okay.
Another nature thing that's going to like pass away and make a nice smell. And she ends with, the grass so little has to do, I wish I were a hay. Okay, now, one thing to notice is the very first line of the poem, right? The grass so little has to do. Okay, that's not the way we would say that sentence normally, right? You know, that's kind of like Yoda speak, you know, right? It's all out of order. The syntax is kind of messed up. How would we normally say it? Probably the grass has so little to do. Okay, so why does she flip them around? It's to get that iambic rhythm, right? The grass so little has to do. It's not Shakespeare's iambic pentameter. This is only 4 lines. So it's shorter than a Shakespearean line, but it still has that soft, loud kind of rhythm to it, right? So we know that she's paying attention to the rhythms here. Okay. Let's take another look. You know, again, which one of these is not like the other one? Which is the only line in this poem that doesn't follow 8-6-8-6? Can you find it?
Caitlin's bad.
Caitlin's bad. You found it already. You were already counting it, right? Right.
I was when you said it, winner.
What? It sounded off, right? It, like when you hear it, you hear the broken rhythm there. Yeah, so when you look at the first stanza, the grass so little has to do, there's 8. A sphere of simple green, 6, with only butterflies to brood, 8, and bees to entertain. The poem is perfectly 8-6-8-6-8-6, because when she's writing about nature, you know, this is something holy, this is something special, this is something divine. You have this divine connection between nature and yourself, right? The only line that breaks the rhythm is where she talks about a duchess not being good enough to wear the pearls that the grass gets to wear at night. You know, now, you know, a duchess, okay, ideas about aristocracy and, you know, this person is nobility and this person is not, right? That's a human invention. That's not natural. That's not something that comes from, you know, the divine, I guess, is what she's saying. After all, you know, Emily Dickinson is an American, and we've thrown off, you know, these ideas of aristocracy and nobility here in our country. But she's saying, hey, look, you know, this is not good enough. This connection with nature is something that's holy and special and divine. Whereas these ideas about, okay, let's have a hierarchy and one person's better than another and things like that, you know, that's where the rhythm of the poem breaks down. That's something that she does not recognize as this sort of holy and special and divine rhythm. Another thing I like about this poem, if you want to just talk about the sound, not so much the rhythm, and another sort of trademark of Emily Dickinson, is her unique use of rhyme. Okay, what rhymes in this poem? No, there is some. You gotta find it. You gotta find it. It's hard to find. Where's the rhyme? All the way down at the bottom. What?
Away.
Right, all the way down at the bottom, you finally hear some rhyme with away and hey. There's actually more in this poem. This poem kind of like starts off without rhyme and then kind of slowly builds steam and gets more rhyme. Can you find the other rhymes?
Well, I don't know if it's purposeful, but fine and divine.
Ooh, there you go. Fine and divine and noticing and perishing. Okay, so in stanza 3, we've got some rhyme with stanza 4, but because it's so far apart, your ear kind of doesn't pick up on it when the first time you listen to it. Emily Dickinson is also kind of famous for using sight rhyme and slanted rhyme. So if you talk about the first stanza with green and entertain, een and ain, okay, they don't quite rhyme.
Right.
You know, it's close but not quite. You know, they both end with
Same with
N.
brew and brood, right.
And the same thing here with along and everything. Well, they both end with the NG sound, but we don't really count that as rhyme because the vowel sound that comes right in front of it is different. So she kind of starts off with you know, a sight rhyme, a near rhyme, and then goes to another sight rhyme, another near rhyme. But again, your ear isn't going to quite pick up on it. And then she comes to here where we actually have some rhyme, but because it's so far apart, again, it's hard for your ear to pick it up. But then finally, in the final stanza, we get some resolution to this rhyme scheme where she uses, you know, away and hey, and it kind of, you know, provides a little bit of closure for the poem. And, you know, it kind of sends you home with a smile because you've got this, you've finally gotten a rhyme that your ear picks up on and recognizes right away down there. Okay, now we've seen 2 poems in a row, right, where she's done this idea where she's using this 8-6-8-6 rhythm, and the one time she breaks it seems to be the one time she's talking about something that she would say is not holy and special and divine.